Charleston County Council member Joe Qualey is busy with issues affecting his district. In this edition of Quintin's Close-Ups, I sit down with the council member one-on-one. And be sure to download the free Quintin's Close-Ups app in your Apple or Google Play stores. Joe Qualey, it is so good to see you again.
Good to see you. Good to see you, Quintin.
I appreciate this.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Anytime. The last time
I always enjoy getting a phone call from you.
Oh, yeah. It's always good, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
You know, the last time I interviewed you for Quintin's Close-Ups was May 5th, 2016.
Okay.
And the last question I asked you was really about, at the time, you were running for Senate District 41.
Yeah.
But you said this to me, quote, standing up for the community for 15 years. Been on county council for 5.5 years. I've got experience. I can navigate through some very tough issues. I'm very keen on constituent services. Let me go back to the top, because you said this again, quote, been on county council 5.5 years. From May 5th, 2016 to right now, it's been close to 7 or 8 years.
That was 7.5 years.
Right?
Yeah.
What has those 7.5 years been like for you in your mind?
They've been rewarding. They've been tough. They've been demanding. But it's been good. It's been good. I'm glad it's me rather than somebody I don't know. I prefer to work from the inside rather than from the outside.
Okay.
Every day, if I can make a difference, it makes me feel better, and that's what I try to do. I try to be local. You know, all politics is local politics, and I get calls on the weirdest things, and you know, I take my time out of my day to try to solve those problems and to help people out. And it really is gratifying when I see people at the Harris Teeter or elsewhere, and they're like, Joe, you know, you really helped me out on that drainage ditch, or you helped me out with this dispute I was having over here, and we're just getting the attention of the necessary people, you know, at the county or even the town of James Island. But it's been gratifying to watch, you know, James Island, which is where I live, and is kind of the core of my district. It's been gratifying to see how things have progressed. Connectivity, right. Harborview Road, right. Camper Follies coming along, right. Sidewalks. I mean, people can pretty much get from anywhere on the island to someplace else without risking being hurt or killed. Mm. So,
do you still have the energy to keep going for 8 years in your mind?
For 4 more. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. I mean, I get up every day, ready to do the same thing. I don't see energy for me as diminished. Mm. I get up every day with adrenaline coursing through my veins.
Wow. So if you were to be re-elected, what would you do on day one?
I'd do the same thing that I did on day one 8 years ago. Mm. I mean, I know what the issues are, and you know, a lot of it is putting the right people with the right people, and then kind of forecasting out. And you know, obviously, part of county council is kind of fighting for funding, which I think was a problem for James Island for many years. I think I have gotten in there, and I've been able to compete with the larger cities and get funding for necessary projects.
What was your secret to doing that in your mind?
Well, first you have to ask for it, and then you have to make a good argument that is needed. Okay. And it appeared to me when I got on county council that everybody understood, everybody saw that James Island had been the kind of, you know, had been left out, had been ignored to its own detriment. So everybody there was like, Joe, it's time. It is time for us to, and they stepped up. I mean, everybody on council stepped up and helped to get the funding necessary. And so when they see something on James Island, they're like, yeah, y'all need that. Let's go get it. So, you know, it's a collaborative thing. I say that we have to fight over the funding. It's not necessarily a fight, but we do have to put our case forward. We have to justify it, and then we have to watch it, and then we have to make sure that the funding gets there. Sidewalks has been amazing. It's been really, really, really great. Fort Johnson, Camp Road sidewalks. you know, when I see people riding down Harborsview Road with their kids on, you know, and I mean, that just wasn't even. I mean, that was an impossibility just a few years ago.
Wow.
So, and now we're doing this rethink Folly Road. We're gonna beautify Folly Road. We're gonna make it so that it can be traversed without people worrying too much.
Yeah. And another fight that Charleston County Council has been dealing with, I guess, since the 1990s is the extension, perhaps proposed extension for 526.
That's been there since I've been on county council. I mean, the whole thing. I mean, it's in, and, you know, county council 7 years ago voted for it. Right? It was a council directive. It went immediately up to Columbia. It was signed by the DOT. It was not signed by the infrastructure bank.
Right.
And that is where it has been for 7 years. That's it. And county council has done nothing to try to sway or dissuade. No member on council, to my knowledge, has done anything to try to sway. Well, actually, I say, we have been trying to get the funding. And in my opinion, the CIB agreed to it years ago. They were supposed to pay for the whole thing years ago. County council voted for it. It should be built, and the CIB should pay for all of it. That's the end of the discussion. But if the CIB came back to us and said, we're not going to pay for all of it, we're just going to pay for $420 million, and county council needs to come up with $350 million. That's been a large obstacle.
Wow.
So you know, one thing is that counties have never paid for interstates before. And $350 million for Charleston County is a, you know, I think for every county is a huge sum of money.
Why the politics?
Well, when you have issues concerning this much money, there's always going to be politics involved. You know, some say when the power shifted away from Glenn McConnell and Bobby Harrell, that the other folks in the upstate decided it was time for them to fund their projects, which is fairly typical. But something needs to be done. 17 to Johns Island. I think that would be an awesome connection. Okay, and maybe that would take half the money. Maybe they'll give us that money, but they have not said yes to that either.
Let me go back to what you said earlier in that particular quote that you told me on May 5th, 2016, that is, I'm very keen on constituent services. So what else are constituents asking you?
Well, they asked me, obviously, drainage and ditches. And then come this season, the mosquitoes.
Oh, yes.
They ask about stoplights. They ask about stop signs. They ask about everything that would make their commutes and their lives less of a hassle. So we've been looking at Riverland Drive and Maybank Highway. That needs to be addressed. And I'm looking at getting some of our half-cent sales tax money, which is the new tax, obviously, getting some money from that to address that location. Quintin, honestly, you know, when you kind of put out one fire, another one pops up, or two more pop up. So, trying to make it so that people can take their families around safely, not in a car. They can travel around in a car safely, and not have to worry about you know, intersection collisions, things like that.
Sure.
I think slowing down the traffic on Maybank, I think slowing down the traffic on Folly would be a good thing. It seems like a lot of people want to get to where they're going in a hurry. So, It's so, and you have to understand that these are cumulative efforts. When you change one thing at one location, it's going to have an impact at someplace else. I've been working very, very diligently with Riverland Terrace because the trees, SCE&G, they were going to come in and do a major trimming, is what they call it. Well, other people have different words for that. And when I showed up at a meeting on a Thursday night, they were there to announce that they were starting on Monday. That they were telling people, we're going to start on Monday. So I was able to kind of halt that process right then, worked with Danny Cassis from SCE&G. Sandy Sin and I are now working together, trying to figure out a way to make it so that those trees aren't, imperiled. Okay. So again, all this comes back to kind of options and money. But certainly everybody in that neighborhood and everybody on James Island and elsewhere, they're very concerned about preserving those trees. I'm very big on preserving everything on James Island and elsewhere for that matter. But so we have to figure out what our options are, whether we can underground those lines, and that is much easier said than done. Underground those lines, maybe a portion of it underground. Wapu Drive is an iconic drive. You got to save those trees. Come on, I mean, literally, when you look down there, you're like, this is one of the most beautiful vistas.
Right.
But then so can you underground them? Where would the underground lines go to? How much would it cost to make that happen? So now we're back to the old, can it be done? What's it going to cost? Who's going to come up with that amount of money? Is it going to be shared? Is it going to be shared by the city of Charleston, because they've got 30% of the folks in Riverland Terrace, shared by the city, shared by the county, and obviously I would want SCE&G to share in that as well. On a short-term basis, it certainly would save them from having to hire out a bunch of tree contractors to do this work. You still have to do some of that work. I mean, I think all trees need to be trimmed occasionally, just for health purposes. But so looking over there at Riverland Terrace, and that is like on my desk, like now.
Wow. Is the bus lot next to the James Island Elementary School on your desk as well?
It really is not. That is a school board issue.
Okay.
And with all deference to them, they kind of don't come to us and ask us how to what decisions to be made. They're looking for a place, I think, to be able to put the school buses while they're not in use. Mm-hmm. The options, to put them out of school seems to make sense to me. But I literally have not, I have not been asked to get involved.
Okay.
Not really sure if I would get involved. Not really sure whether if I did, it would make any difference.
Okay.
Those folks are all elected officials, and they make up their decisions. If they asked me,
okay,
I would certainly get involved and give them my opinion, but they haven't. And actually, no constituents have asked me about it either.
What do you expect to tackle next on Charleston County Council?
Well, what's going to happen next is we're going to have to figure out what to do with this half-cent sales tax money. Because it has been coming in for a while. And we have to figure out, we Charleston County Council, are going to be the stewards of the money. We have to figure out what projects it's supposed to go to, what projects are needed, although for the referendum, there was a list that was put out,
Right.
and that list was compiled by our staff with the assistance of the other towns and cities making their priority list. So we need to figure out, can we do all this stuff? Can we do other things with it? And right now, there seems to be somewhat of a collision between, I shouldn't say collision, but do we use that money or some of that money for drainage issues as well? So we're going to have to be looking at these things in terms of priorities. And I mean, Highway 41 in Mount Pleasant. I mean, that's a significant project that obviously needs to get done. Mount Pleasant wants it; they need it. It's going to be expensive, but you know they deserve it. So much as before is going to be kind of it's going to be, how much money do we have? Where do we put it? Make sure that it's done in the most economical, efficient manner.
Right.
Spread the money out as best we can to get the best bang for our buck. So that should be coming up in the next 6 or 8 weeks, I think.
So who's following this money?
Who's following it?
Yes, sir.
Well, that's a good question because it just really started to come in. We haven't started to spend very much of it. We still have money from the last half-cent sales tax, which we are spending.
Sure.
But I think some of the plans, some of the projects are in design and engineering, which our staff can do that. They're very capable at this, and actually this is our second go around with the half-cent sales tax money, and it's big. It's got a lot of zeros, and our staff worked on it before and can work on it again, and they now can learn from some of the things that they did last time, and very comfortable that the money at this point is being well monitored.
Okay.
But I think your point perhaps is well taken, that it deserves like as much oversight as we can give it.
Councilman Joe Qualey, thank you so much for your time. I really, really appreciate this.
You're welcome. Good to see you, Quintin.
Likewise.
Bye-bye.
Yeah, okay.